Swept into the infertile prince's bed, a night of passion and love changes everything. The waitress finds herself unexpectedly pregnant with triplets. Welcome to Beyond Color Stories. I'm your storyteller, James, hoping you're doing wonderfully today. Now tell me, who's here from my loyal viewers? From the heart of James's family, drop a comment below saying, I'm with you. I truly want to know who's still standing strong, holding on to these stories with love. Your support means more than words can express. Here's a personal update close to my heart. Selena sends you all her love and deepest thanks. She's recovering well and will return soon, brighter than ever. Your prayers and kind words have touched her deeply. Before we begin, here's a short prayer for you. May peace flow into your heart like a gentle river. May love find you in the most unexpected ways, and may every storm you face give way to the softest sunrise of joy. Remember, you are seen, you are loved, and you are never alone. Now, dear family, if you haven't subscribed yet, I ask from the bottom of my heart, please hit that subscribe button. Not just for the channel, but so we can keep building this family, this haven of stories, emotion, and healing together. Your support breathes life into every word I say. Are you ready to fall in love again? To feel something real and journey deep into another beautiful story? Let's dive in. Robbie moved through the upscale restaurant's dining room with graceful confidence. Her smooth brown skin glowed softly beneath the warm golden chandeliers. Her long, stylish hair framed her stunning face, each wave falling like silk down her back, swaying gently as she floated from table to table. Her wide, expressive eyes sparkled with quiet strength and secret dreams, captivating anyone who met her gaze. But tonight, an unusual tension filled the air. She'd worked many nights in this luxurious place, serving wealthy guests with dignity and charm. But tonight was different. Whispers had spread through the kitchen. Royalty was expected. Not just any guest, but the prince himself. Prince Charles, the cold, distant heir to a centuries-old legacy, was known as much for his icy perfection as for the rumors about his inability to father an heir. Emotionless, untouchable, wrapped in secrets. Yet when the palace guards entered, followed by the tall, broad-shouldered man in a custom black suit shimmering under the chandeliers, time seemed to still. Prince Charles carried a quiet power, his strong jaw dusted with light stubble, piercing blue-gray eyes sharp and unreadable. His presence silenced the room. He said little as he sat alone at the reserved corner table, but his aura commanded attention. Robbie was chosen by the manager to serve his table, perhaps for her grace or the beauty that even the wealthy whispered about. As she approached with his menu and water, her fingers trembled, not with fear, but with an electric thrill coursing through her veins. When their eyes met, his intense pale gaze held hers with a force that made her breath catch. The noise around her faded. She felt utterly alone with him. His gaze lingered on her lips before returning to her eyes, and she knew he felt it too. She smiled politely, warmly, but for the first time her heart fluttered like a trapped butterfly. Prince Charles did not answer immediately. He simply stared, as if trying to unravel her mystery, the unexpected presence he never anticipated. Finally, his voice broke the silence, deep, smooth, aristocratic. What do you recommend tonight? Robbie blinked, caught off guard, then recovered smoothly. The chef's special is the rosemary lamb, she replied, her voice as fluid as her movements. But the truffle risotto is also a favorite. He nodded slowly, not at the menu, but in approval of her presence. Then I'll have what you like. That answer sent a delightful shiver down her spine. She wasn't used to customers valuing her opinion, especially not someone so wrapped in the status and silence. Later, their exchanges stayed minimal, but every glance held weight. Every second stretched like velvet between them. She felt his eyes follow her as she moved, and with each stolen look, her curiosity deepened. What was it about this emotionally distant prince that made her cheeks flush and steps falter? He lingered late, sipping wine alone, weighed down by his lineage. When the dining room emptied and the lights dimmed, the manager whispered the prince requested privacy upstairs in the lounge for a nightcap. To her surprise, she was asked to deliver his drink. Her heart pounded as she ascended the velvet stairs, carrying a glass of aged scotch on a silver tray. heels clicking softly. The lounge was quieter, moodier, wrapped in shadows and soft light. He sat in a leather chair, jacket off, shirt collar slightly undone. Less a royal and more a man burdened by solitude. When she placed the drink before him, he didn't thank her with words but with his eyes. "Sit with me," he said softly. Not a question nor a command, but an invitation. She hesitated briefly before settling opposite him. The silence was thick with tension, the kind that forms between two souls sensing something unnamed. "You don't seem like you belong here," he said quietly but firmly. "Neither do you," she replied, surprised by her own boldness. He chuckled, a rare, low sound like music meant only for her. Their talk drifted from formalities to dreams, distant truths to quiet pains. She spoke of her family, small hopes, simple joys. He shared duty, watchfulness, and burdens he never chose. Then the mood shifted. His gaze rested on her lips again. His hand brushed hers as he reached for his glass. The brief touch sparked fire. Before she could question, he leaned in, his woodsy, clean scent intoxicating, heart racing. "You're unlike anyone I've met," he whispered, breath warm on her skin. She couldn't speak, only feel every inch of his nearness and the beat of her own heart. Then his lips met hers, tentative at first, then deepening with unspoken longing. It wasn't just desire, but the collision of two half-asleep souls awakening. The night blurred in heat and urgency, vulnerability and passion in his royal suite. They crossed an unseen boundary. His fingers traced her skin like memorizing, and she surrendered as if waiting all her life to be truly seen. In that room, he wasn't cold. He was fire, tenderness, raw need beneath the mask he wore outside. She was no longer just a waitress. She was a goddess, a queen of a timeless moment. Their bodies spoke the truths their mouths couldn't yet voice. When morning light seeped through curtains, she lay breathless and changed in his arms. No promises, none given, but something had shifted. The world outside spun as usual, but inside those tangled sheets, something new was born, silent, invisible, undeniable. Robbie slipped away before the palace guards returned. Her heart was heavy yet full, her mind swirling, unaware that inside her now stirred a miracle no one, not even the infertile prince, could have imagined. Her once ordinary life, filled with quiet dreams, had stepped into the extraordinary. That fateful night, beginning with a glance, was only the start of something far greater than either knew. Soft morning light filtered through the curtains of Robbie's modest apartment as she sat curled at the bed's edge. Her fingers traced the rim of an empty teacup, thoughts tangled and restless. The memory of that night lived vivid, undeniable, but the world outside remained unchanged. The restaurant still opened at 4, the streets bustled as usual, life pretending nothing extraordinary had happened. Yet inside her something was different, unseen, quiet, profound. At first she blamed fatigue or worries, but as days became weeks, subtle changes grew impossible to ignore. Mornings brought waves of nausea, appetite shifted unpredictably, energy drained faster than before. Her curves shifted slightly. One morning in uniform, she paused before the mirror, catching sight of a softness in her belly she hadn't noticed before. Unease settled like fog in her chest. She had never missed a cycle, not once. Now she was late. Realization dawned slowly. Not a thunderclap, but a steady drum of disbelief. Could it be? Number. It couldn't. She knew who he was. Prince Charles. The world knew his story. Infertile, sterile, a royal secret whispered behind palace walls, denied and never confirmed, but widely believed true. That one impossible, intense night. Could it have led to this? Could it? Unable to quiet her racing heart, Robbie slipped on a coat and made her way to the small clinic down the street. The chill bit her skin. City noise faded beneath the roar in her mind. The receptionist smiled warmly as Robbie filled out forms with trembling hands. Every tick of the clock thundered louder. Inside the white-walled room, the doctor spoke gently, but her words struck like lightning. "You're pregnant," she said, handing Robbie the report with practiced calm. "And it looks like triplets." Robbie blinked, breath caught as she stared at the paper. Triplets? her voice barely a whisper. The doctor nodded softly. It's a high-risk pregnancy. You'll need regular checkups. But you're healthy, and that's a good start. Robbie couldn't hear more. The words blurred into a distant echo as she sat frozen, thoughts spiraling. Hands pressed protectively to her belly, her mind screamed 1,000 questions. This couldn't be real. It had only been one night, one impossible night. And now 3 lives grew inside her. She walked home in a daze, city moving like a dream she couldn't wake from. Fingers clutched the medical file tightly, her free hand drifted to her belly, afraid to believe. There was no one else, no confusion. That night was hers alone, months, maybe years. It had to be him, Prince Charles. But how? The man the world believed couldn't father children had somehow sparked life inside her. Not 1, not 2, but 3. A miracle wrapped in confusion, a secret too heavy to bear alone. Her head throbbed with questions. Was the infertility a lie, or had something unexplainable happened? Either way, silence wasn't an option. She needed answers. She needed to look him in the eyes and ask, did he know? Was she part of something beyond understanding? Or, before you came into my life, I believed my heart had no place in the future. I believed I would live out my days as a hollow man, bound by duty, but starved for connection. His voice softened, the vulnerability shining through every word. But you showed me something different, Robbie. You showed me that love can heal even the oldest wounds, that hope can grow in the most unexpected places. He gently lowered himself onto one knee beneath the canopy of stars and lantern light, the soft rustle of leaves whispering around them. His gaze never left hers, steady, full of reverence and quiet determination. Will you stand beside me, not just as the mother of my children, but as my partner, my equal, my heart's home? He asked, his hand opening to reveal a simple, elegant ring that caught the fading light like a promise. Robbie's breath hitched, tears pooling in her eyes as the weight of the moment settled around them like a gentle embrace. She felt the magnitude of it all, not the pomp of a royal proposal, but the realness of 2 souls daring to trust one another with everything they were. She nodded slowly, her voice barely above a whisper but fierce in its certainty. Yes, Charles, I will. He rose, slipping the ring onto her finger with trembling fingers, and pulled her close. Their embrace was no longer tentative or fraught with fear, but full of the warmth and hope that had quietly blossomed between them over weeks of laughter, fears shared, and love nurtured. As the night deepened, the garden around them held its breath, witnessing the beginning of a new chapter, one written not by crown or expectation, but by the tender beating of 2 hearts, joined by fate and sealed in love. Days alone, a prince bound by duty, untouched by love, until you came. Not as someone needing rescue, but as the spark that awakened everything I'd long buried inside me. His thumb brushed gently across her knuckles, while his other hand slipped into his pocket and drew out a small velvet box. It glowed softly in the lantern light, a quiet promise made visible. You've carried more than my children, he whispered, voice thick with feeling. You've carried my soul, my very being. You taught me how to feel again, how to hope, how to dream. And I never want to spend another day without you by my side, not just as the woman I love, but as my wife, my partner, my queen. Maybe not by title, but by heart. In one graceful motion, Charles knelt before her. The velvet box opened, revealing a delicate ring of intertwined gold and diamonds, shimmering like moonlight caught in a lover's gaze. Every gem handpicked, every detail crafted with her in mind. Will you marry me, Robbie? His voice cracked with the weight of all he felt. Will you let me love you forever, not just as the mother of our children, but as the woman who saved me? Robbie stood motionless, a single heartbeat stretching into eternity. Tears brimmed in her eyes, spilling down in shining trails. In that moment, the garden, the palace, the entire world faded away, leaving only her and the man who knelt, offering not just a ring, but his whole soul. With a trembling hand, she cupped his cheek, her voice a whisper filled with wonder and joy. Yes, Charles. Yes, I will marry you. He rose slowly, breath unsteady, sliding the ring onto her finger. Then, as if gravity itself had shifted, their lips met, tender, full of unspoken promises. The lanterns danced overhead, casting shadows of two souls bound by a love deeper than fate. A love fierce and quiet, now immortal beneath a golden sunset and the soft roar of two hearts finally home. As he pulled her close, whispering how he would cherish her forever, the stars appeared one by one above them, silent witnesses blessing the beginning of a love story history would never forget. The morning after the proposal, the palace air was thick with a quiet thrill, like the moment before a season turns. Robbie woke with Charles's heartbeat still lingering on her skin, his whispered promises echoing in her ears. The ring's weight both surreal and grounding. This was more than transformation. It was a rebirth, one that would reshape her identity, her place in the world, even the woman she saw in the mirror. From that day, everything accelerated. Royal advisors, stylists, etiquette tutors, historians, speech coaches, all handpicked by Charles, arrived to ensure Robbie would be treated with dignity and love, not as a project but as the future heart of the kingdom. Each morning balanced her growing pregnancy's need for rest with carefully tailored lessons. Gone were the days of scraping by in a quiet cafe. Now she stood before full-length mirrors as designers draped her in flowing silks and hand-stitched gowns, embroidered delicately with the royal crest. Jewelry worn by queens past was revived and made hers. Custom shoes cradled her swollen feet, marrying comfort with regal elegance. Every accessory whispered a story, stories she would carry into history. Her posture transformed, not forced but gently molded by a tutor who saw strength beneath her humble beginnings. Robbie learned to walk into ballrooms with quiet grace, speak with diplomatic poise while keeping her fierce honesty, bow without apology, command presence with a single glance. Her days grew long, but they were filled with purpose. Charles, whenever he could steal moments from duty, stood by her side, not as an observer but a partner. He helped her practice introductions, shared stories of dignitaries, and taught her to face cameras and nobles alike, not with fear, but as a symbol of change, hope, and power. When pressure mounted and she hid in the powder room, hands trembling, Charles was always there, knocking gently, whispering through the door, "You are already more royal than anyone here. Your heart is pure, your courage unshakable." The palace staff, once wary, softened. Maids who had looked down on her lingered now, sharing stories and smiles. Robbie was no distant royal. She remembered their names, asked after their children, brought warmth to cold marble halls. Royal chefs adapted her favorite dishes, sweet potato curry, tender flatbreads, tangy tamarind sauces, elevated to gourmet palace fare. Her laughter, once shy and hidden, now echoed freely, filling the palace with life. Paintings on the walls seemed to glow brighter in her presence. The Queen Mother, sharp-eyed and regal, watched Robbie carefully. Wary at first, she was won over by the way her son looked at Robbie, as if he himself bowed before her. Inviting Robbie to private tea, their formal questioning gave way to hours of heartfelt conversation. At the end, the Queen Mother unclasped her heirloom bracelet and placed it on Robbie's wrist. "You'll wear this on your wedding day," she said softly, "because you belong with us now." Robbie blinked back tears, the moment settling deep into her soul like sunlight after a storm. Public opinion, once divided, melted beneath the undeniable power of love. Photos of Charles carrying her medical reports, escorting her into clinics, holding her hand at press events, kissing her temple. These replaced every cynical headline. When Robbie spoke publicly for the first time at a children's hospital, her clear, gentle voice won the nation's heart, her compassion shining behind every word. Charles remained her anchor, walking with her through rose gardens as her belly grew round. He kissed her stretch marks, told her daily she was the most beautiful woman he had ever known. Evenings found them on their private balcony, heads resting together beneath a blanket of stars. "You still look at me like I'm just a waitress," she whispered one night, disbelief coloring her voice. He chuckled, cupping her face. "You were never just a waitress, Robbie. You were always a queen, You just hadn't seen it yet. The world might call it a transformation, but Robbie knew the truth. This journey wasn't about becoming someone new. It was about stepping fully into the woman she had always been. Every lesson, every gown, every ceremonial bow was a layer, peeling back to reveal the truth beneath, that she was powerful, beloved, destined not just to stand beside the prince, but to be the very soul of a changing monarchy. Curled in Charles's arms that night, fingers intertwined over her swollen belly, she whispered a prayer, not for riches or title, but for strength, love, and grace to carry the weight now resting at her feet. The palace no longer felt like cold stone and strange customs. It was home, built with him, day by day, heart by heart. Outside, beneath the hush of moonlight and the soft murmur of garden fountains, the kingdom slept, blissfully unaware that its future queen was already weaving a legacy with every breath. Moments before her life would shift again, not in identity, but in union, Robbie stood behind the grand ceremonial hall's heavy doors. The palace, majestic and layered in golden silk banners and orchids flown in from every continent, paled before the light radiating from her heart. She was no longer just a waitress, no longer just a princess in training. She was a queen in spirit, ready to join her prince not by title alone, but by soul. The royal chamber buzzed with guests, heads of state, nobles, ambassadors, cultural leaders, all gathered from across oceans to witness what was whispered as the wedding of the century. Not for extravagance, but for heart. Because everyone who watched their story unfold knew this union was born not of duty or expectation, but of a love so rare it softened even the sharpest royal protocols. As ceremonial musicians began, the palace doors creaked open, revealing Robbie in a gown unlike anything seen before. Dreams spun into shimmering silk, moonlight hues woven with delicate gold lace framing her hands like art. The bodice hugged her form, honoring her pregnancy with pride, not concealment. Her veil trailed like a river of stars, embroidered with symbols of her past. The coffee cup from the cafe where they met, blooming flowers from her childhood village. The royal crest she earned not by blood but by love. Her hair, swept in an elegant updo, sparkled with diamond petals, gifts from village women she once served. Her bouquet, handpicked by Charles, bloomed with lavender, jasmine, and crimson roses wrapped in silk, the same shade as the first scarf she wore on their first night together. The guests rose in stunned silence. Charles, standing regal in white with sapphire accents matching her gown, felt breath hitch as he saw her, not just as a bride, but as the woman who taught him how to love and live again. His eyes glistened with unshed tears as she approached. Steps slow, steady, every heartbeat echoing in his soul like a vow before vows. At last she reached him, their hands joined in a trembling smile. Together, beneath a floral arch of cherry blossoms, roses, and ancient olive branches, symbols of peace and eternal love, they stood. The high priest began the ceremony with words blending their cultures as their hearts had blended. Their vows were their own, written by hand. Charles spoke first, voice quivering with truth. Raby, you are the light that woke me from cold sleep, the strength that steadied me when I doubted the world, the fire that reignited all I had lost. I vow to love you with every breath, to honor you as my wife, to protect our family with all I am, and to never let a day pass without showing you that you are my greatest treasure. Her lips parted, a soft gasp, then her voice calm and resonant. Charles, you gave me a home, not in your palace, but in your heart. You saw me before the world did, lifted me not with wealth, but with belief. I vow to walk beside you in joy and storm, to raise our children in love and courage, to never lose the wonder we found in each other, and to be your light as you are mine for all the days we are given. A tear slipped down Charles's cheek. Even the most stoic nobles wiped their eyes as the rings were exchanged, hers a delicate circle of platinum and sapphire, mimicking the dusk sky, his a solid gold band engraved with her handwriting, always, no matter the crown. When pronounced husband and wife, Charles cupped her face and kissed her with reverence and pure devotion. The crowd erupted in applause, petals raining from balconies. And commoner, not as royal or outsider, but as husband and wife, forever bound by a love that had defied every boundary, rewritten every rule, and turned an ordinary life into a story the world would remember. Not for its opulence, but for its heart. The soft silence of the royal bedroom just before dawn was broken only by the steady sound of Charles's slow breathing as he lay beside Robbie, his arm protectively wrapped around her. Their fingers intertwined atop her now fully rounded belly, the evidence of a love so complete it had taken form inside her. The days since the wedding had passed in golden serenity, slow mornings where he read poetry to her under the morning sun, quiet afternoons when they walked through the garden and she whispered her dreams for the babies to him, and starlit nights where he would kiss every inch of her growing stomach and murmur to their unborn children stories of the world they would be entering. But on this particular morning, as the sky hinted at the first stroke of light, Robbie stirred with a sharp intake of breath, her hand tightening around his as a wave of pain swept through her lower back. Different from the aches she had grown accustomed to. This one was deep, pulsing, urgent. Instinctively, Charles was awake within seconds. His eyes flickered with alert concern as he sat up, brushing her damp hair from her face. She whispered hoarsely, "I think it's time." And that was all he needed to hear. He sprang into action, calling for the royal physicians and nurses who had been on standby for days, ensuring every member of the palace's medical team was in position, all while remaining by her side, never leaving her for a moment. His fingers never letting go of hers as the labor intensified. Hour after hour passed in a haze of contractions, sweat, breathless groans, and endless moments of reassurance. Charles whispered over and over again, "You're doing so well, my love. I'm here. I'm not going anywhere." His voice unwavering even when fear threatened to crack his composure, because seeing Robbie in pain sent lightning bolts of helplessness through his spine. Yet never once did she falter. Her face shone not with fear, but fierce determination, as if every ounce of her strength was drawn not just from within, but from the life she had built with him. Finally, after what felt like 1,000 lifetimes compressed into one eternal afternoon, the room erupted with the tiny, miraculous wail of their first baby, a cry that struck them both in the heart like divine music. Charles gasped, overwhelmed, as the nurse held up their son, his eyes already open, deep and dark, with the unmistakable angle of Charles's brow and Robbie's heart-shaped lips. Before the awe had time to settle, the second baby arrived. Another boy, his cry even louder, his fists balled as if already ready to protect his siblings. And then, almost immediately after, the room was blessed with the most delicate, melodious cry of their daughter. Tiny, perfect, her face softer, framed with wisps of dark curls. As the midwife gently placed the 3 newborns against Robbie's chest, Charles felt something inside him shatter and rebuild all at once. He had never known that love could multiply in an instant, could expand so far beyond the limits of what he believed was possible. He dropped to his knees beside the bed, unable to speak, tears streaming freely down his cheeks as he pressed kiss after kiss to Robbie's sweat-soaked forehead, whispering her name over and over like a prayer. "You did it, my queen. You gave me a world." Robbie, though exhausted and weak, smiled through tears as she looked at the little faces nestled against her, each one breathing softly, eyes closed in trust, unaware that they had just rewritten the story of the kingdom. The physicians declared both mother and children healthy, and the royal aides immediately rushed to announce the births to the rest of the palace. Cheers erupted through every corridor, servants cried, guards hugged one another, and the royal council gathered for an emergency session of celebration, unable to contain the joy blooming across every face. Meanwhile, back in the quiet sanctuary of the bedroom, Charles lifted each child into his arms one by one, holding them with reverence and whispering their names, names they had chosen together after countless nights of discussion, names that carried heritage and hope. Their firstborn son would be named Elias, a strong name meaning, "The Lord is my strength." Their second, Idris, a name from Robbie's homeland meaning, "Interpreter of Truth." And their daughter, the smallest yet already the boldest in gaze, would be Layla, meaning Night Beauty, for she had arrived at the twilight hour, illuminating their world in ways no sun could match. Robbie watched Charles as he held them, the way his large hands cradled each tiny form with unmatched gentleness, the way his eyes shone not just with pride, but with devotion. She knew in her soul that no matter what the world brought them, their children would be raised in a home of love, strength, and safety. As evening fell over the palace, the new family remained wrapped in each other's presence, lost in a bubble of warmth that not even the grandest celebrations outside their door could penetrate. Later that night, after the babies had been fed and placed in the royal nursery under the care of trusted nurses, Yes half closed, her body aching, yet glowing. He climbed into bed beside her, wrapping her carefully in his arms, resting his head against her shoulder as he whispered, "I never imagined I could feel more love than I already did for you, but today you gave me everything I didn't know I needed." Robbie, her voice barely a whisper, replied, "We made something eternal, Charles. They are the proof of us." And with that, the two drifted into the deepest sleep they had known in months, their hearts finally still, their dreams now made real in the form of three tiny beings who would grow up surrounded by the legacy of a love that had begun in the most unexpected of places and blossomed into a dynasty not of wealth or politics, but of soul. Seasons and the gentle passage of months found Robbie settling ever deeper into the rhythm of her new life as a princess, a life that shimmered with luxuries and comforts she had once only glimpsed in fleeting dreams or the most distant of fantasies. The once unfamiliar halls of the palace now felt like home, every corner touched by the soft glow of candlelight and the whispers of history. She wandered through expansive rooms adorned with ornate tapestries, gilded mirrors, and ceilings that stretched high like the heavens. The grandeur of it all was no longer intimidating but inviting. The silken robes that now draped her figure were unlike any fabric she had worn before. Rich, flowing, and embroidered with threads of gold that caught the light in dazzling patterns. Around her neck, a necklace of delicate diamonds and sapphires rested like a constellation, a symbol of the status she had earned, but also of the journey that had brought her here. Yet despite the elegance that now surrounded her, Robbie's heart remained tethered to the simple joys she shared with Charles and their children, the quiet moments that outshone even the finest jewels. Each day unfolded as a celebration of their love and the life they were building together. Mornings began with soft golden light filtering through the grand windows, waking the family with gentle warmth. Charles would rise early, his footsteps light as he made his way to the nursery to greet their children, his eyes shining with a tenderness that made Robbie's heart swell. The palace staff, once a distant presence, now felt like extended family, bustling quietly to prepare for the day's events while respecting the intimate space the royal family cherished. Breakfast was a lively affair filled with laughter and playful chatter as the children shared their dreams and discoveries from the night before. Charles and Robbie exchanged knowing glances across the table, their love deepening in the shared smiles and unspoken promises. Beyond the walls of the palace, the world seemed to bloom in harmony with their happiness. The royal gardens, meticulously cared for by the palace gardeners, became a sanctuary where the family spent countless hours. Robbie delighted in the fragrant blossoms and the vibrant colors that surrounded her, each flower a testament to the beauty that flourished in their new life. Charles, no longer the distant monarch many had known, was a devoted father and partner, his hands gentle as they helped their children chase butterflies or pick ripe fruit from the orchard. Their days were punctuated by the soft melodies of birdsong and the rustle of leaves, moments of peace and connection that grounded them amidst their royal duties. The luxury that enveloped Robbie was not merely in material wealth, but in the freedom to live authentically as herself, beloved, cherished, and empowered. The sumptuous gowns and sparkling jewels were symbols of a status she had never sought but now embraced as a reflection of the love that had transformed her life. She walked through the grand halls with newfound confidence, her steps light and purposeful. The queenly grace she exuded was a natural extension of the strength that had carried her through every challenge. The court admired her not just for her beauty and poise, but for the fierce intelligence and compassion that guided her actions. She was a partner to Charles in every sense, her voice valued in matters of state, and her presence a source of inspiration to all who served the crown. Their love, the true jewel of Robbie's life, blossomed with each passing day. Charles surprised her with small, thoughtful gestures that spoke volumes. A single rose left on her pillow, a whispered word of affection in the quiet moments before dawn, or a gentle touch that conveyed a depth of feeling beyond words. They stole away whenever possible to hidden corners of the palace or secret gardens, where time seemed to pause and the world outside faded away. In those stolen hours, they shared dreams and laughter, hopes and fears, weaving their souls ever closer in a tapestry of devotion. Robbie marveled at the man Charles had become, not just a king or a ruler, but a lover and companion. Robbie marveled at the man Charles had become, not just a king or a ruler, but a lover and companion whose heart beat in time with hers. Their children grew under the shelter of this love, their lives enriched not only by privilege, but by the warmth and guidance of parents who nurtured their spirits and minds. Charles and Robbie took great care to ensure their upbringing was grounded in kindness, wisdom, and respect for the world beyond palace walls. They introduced their children to the arts and letters, to the stories of their ancestors, and to the values that would one day shape their roles as future leaders. Family dinners were filled with lively debates and playful teasing, the room alive with energy and affection. Evenings often ended with Charles reading aloud from ancient texts or Robbie teaching their daughter to play the harp, melodies drifting through the chambers like a lullaby of love. Amidst the splendor and joy, challenges arose, as they inevitably do in any life, royal or otherwise. Yet Charles and Robbie faced every trial together, their bond a fortress against the storms. The weight of expectations, political intrigue, and the demands of governance pressed heavily at times, but they met these burdens hand in hand, drawing strength from one another. Robbie's keen insight and unwavering support proved invaluable in navigating the complexities of court, while Charles's dedication to their family kept his heart anchored in what truly mattered. They communicated openly, their partnership a model of trust and respect that inspired those around them. Robbie's days were a delicate balance of public duties and private joys. She attended royal functions with grace, her presence lighting up the room, yet she never lost sight of the sanctuary she had created with Charles and their children. Their evenings were reserved for intimate family time, a sacred space where the pressures of the throne melted away and only love remained. They shared meals prepared by skilled chefs who delighted in crafting dishes that pleased both the palate and the eye. Yet Robbie often found herself in the kitchen alongside the cooks, eager to learn recipes that reminded her of simpler times, blending tradition with the elegance of their new life. These moments of normalcy woven through the tapestry of luxury grounded her in a way no riches alone could. Travel became another thread in the rich fabric of their life. Charles and Robbie journeyed together to distant lands, both for diplomatic missions and private retreats. Each voyage deepened their connection, exposing them to new cultures, experiences, and perspectives that broadened their horizons and enriched their souls. They walked hand in hand along sun-drenched beaches, explored ancient cities steeped in history, and found solace in quiet mountain retreats where the air was crisp and the world seemed to slow. In these adventures, their love was tested and strengthened, their bond forged anew with every challenge and discovery. The court buzzed with tales of their devotion, stories whispered in admiration about the king who had found joy and softness in fatherhood, and the princess whose spirit shone brighter than the most precious jewels. Robbie's presence became a symbol of hope and renewal, a testament to the power of love to transform even the most daunting of circumstances. She held counsel with advisors and nobles alike, her voice clear and confident, shaping policies that reflected compassion and progress. Charles stood by her side, proud and unwavering, their partnership a beacon of strength that fortified the kingdom's foundation. At night, when the palace fell into a peaceful hush and the moon cast silver shadows across the marble floors, Charles and Robbie found themselves drawn together in quiet intimacy. Their love was a dance of passion and tenderness, a celebration of the life they had built and the future they dreamed of. They spoke softly in the dark, their words weaving promises and dreams. Their touch ignited fires that warmed their souls. In those moments, surrounded by the luxury of their surroundings and the simplicity of their hearts, they knew they had found something rare and precious, a love that transcended titles and riches, a love that would endure through every season of life. As the days turned into months and the months into years, Robbie often reflected on the incredible journey that had brought her from humble beginnings to the heights of royalty and love. She marveled at the twists of fate that had introduced her to Charles, the man who had become her soulmate and partner in every sense. Together, they had crafted a life filled with beauty, joy, and meaning. A life where love was the true treasure and luxury the backdrop to a story written by their hearts. In the embrace of their family and the splendor of their palace, Robbie found a happiness that words could scarcely capture, a fulfillment that radiated from within and illuminated every corner of her world. Their story was not just one of power and privilege, but of connection, growth, and unwavering devotion. It was a testament to the transformative power of love and the beauty that emerges when two souls unite in purpose and passion. As they faced each new day, hand in hand and heart to heart, Charles and Robbie knew they were living a life of true luxury, the luxury of love, family, and a future forged together in the light of hope and happiness. Robbie responded to challenges not with sharp words but with graceful actions, educating herself deeply, speaking with the authority earned through knowledge, and letting the fruits of her efforts outshine any claim of bloodline. Charles stood fiercely by her side at every public moment, making clear her place beside him was neither negotiable nor decorative, but essential. When whispers grew loud and pressure heavy, he would draw her close in the privacy of their chamber and say, "I don't care how they look at us, Robbie. What matters is how we see each other. When I look at you, I see the soul of a queen." That unwavering bond, their teamwork, carried them through crises, political storms, and personal trials alike. Robbie's presence was no novelty but a vital light. Her compassion shaped legislation, her insights deepened diplomacy, and her spirit transformed traditions into something vibrant and meaningful. In quiet moments between their public lives, their love deepened, not just through grand gestures, but through simple rituals. A hand touch beneath the banquet table, a letter on a pillow, Charles brushing his lips over her knuckles before a meeting, grounding and blessing her with silent strength. Robbie grew not just into her role as princess, but into the woman she was destined to be: strong, graceful, intuitive, unbreakably human. She no longer feared her place. She had claimed it with integrity. Her days were full, not with busyness, but with meaning, each moment a testament to courage and love. One twilight, standing on the terrace painted in lavender and gold, she felt Charles's arms circle her waist. Resting his chin on her shoulder, he whispered, "You make everything brighter." She smiled, not with disbelief, but with quiet peace, having embraced her fate. Years passed like petals on a river, layering memories over the foundation they'd built together. On a midsummer afternoon, they sat on the marble bench overlooking the garden, their private observatory of life's miracles. The garden had flourished like their family, vibrant and alive with laughter and dreams. Charles watched their children, now confident and bright, and then looked to Robbie. The silver at his temples shimmered like earned stardust. He saw in her the serenity of a woman who had conquered uncertainties, balanced thrones and cradles, and built a sanctuary ruled by love stronger than any crown. "I can't believe how far we've come," he murmured in awe. Robbie's eyes glistened with pride and warmth. "And you've made my dreams come true," she said softly, nodding toward their children, each a living joy, each a promise fulfilled. Together they lingered in peaceful silence, memories unfolding like stained glass. The wedding night, first parenthood, battles fought and won, quiet mornings, festival songs. The kingdom thrived under their shared vision, compassion and collaboration shaping policies and hearts alike. Yet here in the garden's gentle embrace, no accolades intruded, only breeze, birdsong, and the sacredness of their love story. Charles took her hand, pressing a kiss to her pulse, and Robbie felt the depth of devotion that had grown richer with time. Their fingers intertwined, their hearts beating a lifelong rhythm. Plans for the future blossomed between them: a harvest festival, scholarships, a library wing, all gestures of hope, roots growing ever deeper. When their children returned with flushed cheeks and bright eyes, the royal family embraced warmly. laughter echoing beneath the blooming sky. As twilight deepened, Charles led Robbie beneath a jasmine-covered arch. "Years ago, I thought legacy meant statues and tomes," he said softly. "Now I know it's this: laughter, shining eyes, your hand in mine." Robbie leaned into his steady heartbeat, her anchor and home. "Then let us build more memories," she whispered. "Let our story teach that love, patient, daring, enduring, is the greatest power a ruler can wield." Stars pricked the indigo sky, the palace bathed in silver moonlight. Charles kissed her forehead, a silent blessing. Challenges would come, but together they would weather every storm, transforming trials into seeds for new gardens. As fireflies danced and nightingales sang, Charles and Robbie stepped toward their home and future, hearts entwined in a timeless cadence. Whatever chapters awaited, they would write them in trust and hope, illuminated by a love destined to outshine crowns, shelter kingdoms, and endure forever.